Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of Oscar Film Forecast. We've been leading up to this all season. It's my favorite period of the award season. I think phase two is a little less fun than phase one because it's more predictable. But final Oscar nomination predictions. This is we'll get into it, a more unpredictable year than I think maybe we've been dealing with the entire time we've done this show. So this will be fun. I think both of us have decided some of these categories are a little predictable and you have to take some calculated risks in certain places. Don't want to just make some dumb choices. Maybe some of us will do a few of those. Who knows? But any thoughts, Anthony, before we get into every single category, our final Oscar nomination predictions?
I think we should just jump right into this.
Let's do it. Starting from the bottom with Best Original Song. So me and Anthony agree on two of the Emilia Perez songs. I imagine El Mal and Mi Camino, and then the Wild Robot song, and of course Diane Warren for the 6888. And then where we differ, somehow I'm going against challengers and Anthony is going for challengers with Compress Repress. Who knew that would happen? I went with the Elton John song Never Too Late. So yeah, thoughts on this category, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, I think, going with Elton John is never a faulty path when it comes to the Oscars. He is beloved, and he infamously threw one of the most famous, I think he still does probably, one of the most famous Oscar parties, after parties. But I think they have to know what the movie is, and I'm not sure this movie has the same awareness.
Do they know what the 6888 is?
No, but they know Diane Warren.
But,
I think that they've shown in the past to nominate Diane Warren no matter what the movie is. And at least 6888 has been seen. It's a Netflix film. It stars Kerry Washington. Yeah. So I feel good about that. And, Challenges has been doing quite well within the music branches at other award shows. And I think just Challenges in the end has a bigger profile. So, and I do think Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross are very well respected among the music branch. And as is routine, they like if Challengers was a song that was from like a newer composer or like a first time nominee, then maybe I would say Elton John has a chance. But I think Challengers has a big enough profile. And I just think people have heard this song more that I feel confident in that getting the fifth spot.
I was very close with going with that, but that once again, like I mentioned at the beginning, seemed like the very safe top five. And in some of these categories, I'm just like, I'm not going to do that. They like Elton John. He's been promoting this documentary and film in general. He was on stage cheering on Challengers when it won original score at the Globes. So I'm sure he'll be happy even if it takes its spot. But I think also Challengers, this would be Luca Guadagnino's first Oscar nomination if this song got nominated. So we've got that going for it as well. But yeah, I feel like those are the main ones. I don't think there's anything else really in contention outside of these six. Yeah. Like I said, that top five has gotten pretty much everything everywhere. There's the Twister song, which got some love at, I think, like the Grammys. But I don't really see that happen. Let us move on now to original score. Once again, we agree on four. A pretty easy four there. With The Brutalist, obviously, potentially winning. Challengers also potentially winning. Conclave also potentially winning. And Emilia Perez could maybe win. So that top four, I think everyone should have that in there. I feel like those are pretty secure. I'd be shocked if maybe Challengers could miss. But I feel like that Globe win kind of secured it. Then I'm going with, this is where I did go with the safe five. With The Wild Robot, it's gotten pretty much everything it could have. This top five, besides Challengers, which missed BAFTA, has gotten in everywhere they could. Anthony, you're going with Wicked. I was scared about this because I didn't think it was going to be eligible. The fact that they can vote for it, I don't know. It's a musical and score.
That's my thing. Is I feel like the one qualm that I think people would have with this is it an original score? But it made the shortlist, so it has qualified. And at that point, it's the big musical with a capital M. Stephen Schwartz is a previous winner in the music branch, Oscar winner. And so and also John Powell, I think, has, built up a nice credibility over the last 20 years in the industry. The two of them are co-nominees here. And yeah, I just feel like in the end, when you look at, I'm looking at Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Everybody was so sure that was going to get in. Alexandre Desplat. And it's an animated film, well regarded, the front runner for animated feature, and then it misses out. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking might happen with The Wild Robot. I'm just going with the idea that Wicked is going to be well regarded, and I think that we saw with Everything Everywhere as well. If they like the movie, they kind of want to find every possible place to award it. And so I do think that given that Wicked is so known for its music and that it did qualify, I think it has a good shot. This is one of the places, though, I will admit I'm going against the conventional wisdom. And if it is the Wild Robot, yes, I will not be surprised. But I needed to do some things to give my predictions a little bit of originality. And I think this is something that can surprise us. You know, if Mary Poppins Returns can get a song nomination and a score nomination, I think that Wicked could get a score nomination. It fits that sort of
It's
role.
possible. For sure. It's something I'm scared of. I think what I'll bring up for some of these tech categories, I think it's helpful, are the precursors. So I believe all of these got BAFTA, Emilia, Perez, Wild Robot, and The Brutalist all got BAFTA, Critics' Choice, Golden Globes, and the SCL nominations. The Wild Robot also got HMMA nominations, and Wicked has an SCL nomination, and that is it. And then the other thing, I think the other film we should mention here is BAFTA did nominate Nosferatu for original score. So that could maybe, if it overperforms, sneak in there. But I do want to, before we get into some of these other tech categories, I think Nosferatu is something to be careful with how much you're giving it, is all I'll say. Because if you start getting into like the 4 or 5 territory, how close are you to Best Picture at that point? Mm-hmm. So yeah. And I do think going back to the
even if you're projecting it for 4 or 5, yeah, very far away.
You're still far off. But yeah, I do want to go back to the animated thing with the Wild Robot. I do feel like those other 2 scores aren't as traditional as this one. I feel like this is a very traditional score. Like Spider-Verse was a very like out there, like more techno kind of score. And and The Boy and the Heron was the other one, was I think more traditional than Spider-Verse, but still not quite as like the orchestra, like emotional vibes of The Wild Robot. I do think definitely my number 5 in the category. And if it misses both of these nominations, I feel like we could maybe see, we'll get into it, Flow come in for a potential win. Mm-hmm. In animated. So yeah, that is Best Original Score. Let us move along to Best Sound. We agree, 5 for 5 on this.
Yes.
I made a last minute change here. I was originally going with Alien Romulus, and then I looked at the precursors, and Alien Romulus is not doing well. Let me pull it up in the precursors. I believe it only has 2 MPSE nominations, whereas Dune and Wicked, I'll have the AMPS nominations, BAFTA, CAS, and MPSE. And A Complete Unknown has AMPS, CAS, MPSE.
Listen, I know that I applaud our viewers and listeners. They're inside baseball more than most people, but you're going to have to explain these acronyms a little bit.
CAS, like Cinema Audio Society, I'm pretty sure. MPSE, Motion Picture Sound Editors. But all I'm saying is Dune, A Complete Unknown, and Wicked Part 1 have pretty much gotten all the sound nomination precursors they could. Emilia Perez has not done great. It missed 2 with the AMPS, the CAS, but it did get the MSPCA. And Gladiator 2 got BAFTA and CAS. So that's pretty, as we can see here, a pretty easy top 5 in my opinion. I think the other one with the number 6 in terms of the most precursors is Deadpool and Wolverine for some reason. So I don't think that's going to happen. I feel like Marvel films, if they get sole surprise nominations, usually end up in visual effects and not sound. There's usually not, as we'll get into, and you can see with the films here, a like film that just gets a sound nomination. Usually you get something else. Like even The Creator and Mission Impossible last year, they got sound, but they also got visual effects. So I think don't predict something for just sound. Like don't do Blitz for just sound or something. So
yeah.
Yeah.
You got your balance of musicals and action movies. Wicked kind of
you do
between both. So I think that to me, this is an easy 5. And I'm very excited post-nomination to see what wins, because I think that's too close to call right
That's a whole other ball game. Yeah, I have no clue, because this category is very connected to editing. So who knows? Let us move along now to Best Visual Effects. Ooh, we've got some disagreements here. Okay, so we obviously agree on Dune. That's winning the category. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. They always get nominated for this stuff. Gladiator 2 also has pretty much hit most of the visual effects.
Napoleon really showed us that Gladiator 2 should be here.
Yeah, of course. And then you are going with two that I've been toying with. They would be my number 6 and 7, Wicked and Alien Romulus. What is your reasoning for these ones? Wicked did get the BAFTA, but I don't know. Something about it is just, it doesn't quite fit the Oscar visual effects vibes to me. I feel like it doesn't look up to their standards, but they've nominated some bad stuff before, so who knows?
Yeah, and I wouldn't say it's bad visual effects. I mean, we're not dealing with some of the Spider-Man No Way Homes, the sort of like
Or Free Guy. Yeah.
yeah, or Ready Player One. I think to me the reason why Wicked's here is because Wicked is a Best Picture contender. It's a top tier Best Picture contender. I think that gives it a good enough will to get in here. And then Alien Romulus, I think we saw did very well with the short list. Has been on the bubble at a lot of different guilds and awards places. So to me, I just feel like there's a little bit, and I do think Alien has a little bit of prestige because it comes from such an established property within Hollywood history. And I think there's been enough
I think
time.
the previous ones have won too.
Yeah, so I think there's enough time for people to be familiar with Alien Romulus. It was, in its own right, a box office hit. I think it did very well in the late summer. So that would be my thing against the two movies that you have. I do think Mufasa has been doing surprisingly well for the type, like we thought it was just going to be a big flop, and it's been holding nicely and getting some nice headlines from the box office. So that might help it. But I get the sense that there's not really any real passion for this movie. And then Better Man, I mean, maybe, but I just think it's so small and it's definitely not connecting here in the States. So I just think in the end, like if you're looking at like which musical you're going to put in, I think you're going to go with the bigger contender. So that's kind of my feeling.
My thing on Alien is when it first hit the shortlist, I think we both felt this way. It did better on the shortlist than we expected. I was like, oh, I could see this like being the creator this year, getting sound and visual effects. But then precursor-wise, it, like I just mentioned with sound, didn't do very well. For visual effects, it hasn't hit a single thing, which the creator did manage to do last year. The creator did well with all of the sound and visual effects precursors, more so visual effects with that one. So the fact that it hasn't hit anything compared to these other films just has me worried. It could still be a surprise, but I would just like to have seen it hit something beforehand. And then Wicked is one I would consider more because that has both the BAFTA nomination and the Critics' Choice nomination, but it didn't hit. Those are not decided by the guild members, like the specific visual effects guild members, which the specific bodies like VES are the people who will be deciding what gets nominated here in the visual effects guild. And that didn't get a single nomination from them. So I feel like when they go for Twisters got that, Mufasa got that, Better Man got that, Planet of the Apes got that, and Dune got that. So when I look at if this was up to the whole Academy, I think for sure that's how Wicked would get in there. I think that's how it got in at the BAFTAs too. And kind of like how Poor Things got visual effects at the BAFTAs too, and not at the Oscars because it's everyone voting on it. But when it's just the visual effects people, the fact that it didn't get anything at their guild just has me thinking probably not. And the other ones did get it. Yeah. So that's what I'm going with for that. And Better Man, it is the monkey thing. Most of this category is monkey stuff, but it's got very impressive. I just recently saw it. It's pretty much on the same level as Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And it's gotten, I think it also got an Annie nomination for visual effects along with the BAFTA, Critics' Choice, and VES. So that is why I'm going with that. And like you said, Mufasa, it at least hit the VES, which was enough for me to put it in there. And it's still impressive, even though I don't think it looks quite as good as Mufasa, as the original Lion King. So that's visual effects. Moving along to makeup and hairstyling. Okay, we agree on the substance, probably as the winner. Wicked as well, I've come around to that. Nosferatu and Emilia Perez. We've got two horror films in here. Not everyone has Emilia Perez. I think both of us kind of are relying on that transformation of Carlos Sofia Gascon's character from the cartel boss to Emilia Perez. I feel like that's the kind of thing. That's the kind of like transformation prosthetic stuff that they'll go for. And then where we disagree here is I'm going with Beetlejuice, and you are going with Dune Part 2. Why are you going with Dune? What's swaying you that way?
Well, I am not totally sold yet on the ambivalence to Dune Part 2 that you have. I still think it could do somewhat well, not as well maybe as the first film, but I think it's going to, have a showing on Thursday. And I think for Austin Butler alone, I mean, he talks about the bald cap going right over his eyebrows. Like I think there's enough in there that I think will impress the voters. And I just think Beetlejuice, I just feel like, it's the same thing you did in 1988. Like I don't know what they would be awarding that's fresh with the new film. I feel I think it's solely based on Michael Keaton. Like, what are we awarding? The eyeshadow that the women in the movie wear? So
no, that's fair.
It could happen because we've seen not always in this category, but like, you know, movies that just like movies that really don't make sense to be on the Academy radar, like Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, managed to get like one Oscar nomination in 2019. So, you know, I could see it happening, but I tend to go with what are the movies that I think are going to be bigger players, you know, that can build these nomination totals that I think more people are talking about. And for me, that's Dune Part 2.
That's fair. That's fair. I feel like Dune, like I keep saying this entire season, I do think it's going to underperform and miss some of the stuff it got the first time around. And I think there is some behind the scenes drama with this one where they only submitted the makeup artists who worked on the I think what's the Austin Butler family called? The Van Burens? No.
Van Burens is the brutalist.
Yes, that's the brutalist. Okay. Those people. It's only they're similar. They're similar families, okay?
It's gonna give me life next week.
Yeah. But yeah, they didn't submit the makeup artist who I think was for the first one. I think Donald Mowat is his name, is what I'm seeing here. So there's some drama with that. I don't think that will really affect it that much. But Beetlejuice did do well in terms of precursors. It got the Critics' Choice, and it got 3 MOA, which is Makeup and Hairstyling Guild nominations, compared to Dune Part 2, which didn't get any. And once again, I'm just going to keep bringing up, when you look at these guild awards, it is the specific people in this guild voting on what gets nominated, not the entire Academy. And when I look at Dune getting no one from that guild award, at the Makeup and Hairstyling Guild, and Beetlejuice getting, I think I said 3 nominations, just makes me lean like that's what they'll like a little more. Mm-hmm. But and it's nice stuff. I think
sometimes they do differ. I remember when we were coming.
Oh, they do.
In 2022, we were leaving the guilds for the cinematographers, and we were like, all right, Top Gun, and we were so sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I thought Top Gun would get it, but I was one of the ones that predicted Tar, and I will always live high off that. But like, sometimes it's not like a 1-for-1 thing that happens. However,
no. Point. Yeah, and I do think one film that also I think got some WA nominations that we should mention that's not here is A Different Man. I think is on lots of people's lists and potentially getting nominated here. That I just feel like that might not be seen enough is my issue with it. Yep. It is good prosthetic makeup, but I think the visibility is just my issue with it. And we should also mention with some of these categories that usually have bake-offs that show off the work, like this, visual effects, I think sound has one as well. They're not doing it in person because of the Los Angeles fires. I think they're doing it virtually. So I'm not sure how that will affect in terms of, because those bake-offs can sometimes, like if they show the work, a film that people weren't really considering before can like really sway people over. So I'm not sure if that means more people will be able to see it because it's not in person, or less people. So who knows? But that is a factor to keep in mind here. Any other films? I think we should. I almost did Waltzing with Brando in this category, just because it kind of it's good makeup looking like Marlon Brando, but it didn't hit any. I kind of was like, oh, could it be like Golda this year?
Like,
yeah, that was my issue. It could be like Golda, but then I looked and Golda hit pretty much most of the precursor nominations it needed, and Waltzing with Brando has hit none of them. I would still look out for it as a crazy surprise. Same with maybe The Apprentice, but because The Apprentice could get some acting nominations, as we'll talk about. But yeah. Anything else? I think that's about it.
Yeah, we'll see. It's funny, you know, we're recording this on Sunday, and how much if we change anything by the time Thursday rolls around, because you always worry that like we'll change things at the last minute and you'll change it away from the correct answer.
Always go with your gut.
Yeah. So I might, because I do think Tim Burton films have it I do think there's a level of respect for the craft of those movies that even if they're not all around players, they manage to sneak in. Colleen Atwood in costume design a lot of times sneaks in. So you might be right. Yeah. Beetlejuice might get in there. Maybe Emilia Perez, we're overhyping, and maybe it's Dune and Beetlejuice. So I think this is one where I think we agree on a top 3. And then maybe it's those the remaining 3 that are jockeying with A Different Man maybe thrown in there. But I agree with you. I think it's a little too small scale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Agreed. Moving along to Best Costume Design, another 5 for 5 here, where we got Nosferatu, Wicked, Conclave, Gladiator 2, and A Complete Unknown. Well, yeah, this feels pretty good to me. I was iffy on Conclave at first, but then I looked at the precursors and it hits everything with the guilds and previous awards bodies. So I'm just like, even though they're all kind of wearing the same thing, which was my thing going against it, it hasn't underperformed yet. So I'm not going to kick it out.
Yeah.
At this point.
And I was at first hesitant with A Complete Unknown, but then not only does it have period, but going back, Walk the Line did get a costume design nomination.
Yeah.
And from our perspective, I think Complete Unknown seems to be faring better, at least in this current
Yeah.
period. Than
It's a top 5 film at this point, I think.
So maybe. I might give you top 6. We'll see. I have to think back to all of them. But you're right.
I don't think Wicked is top 5.
It's climbing. Well, I got to think. We'll get to it. We'll get to picture.
Yeah, we will. Yeah.
Because there's too many movies running in my head right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so
it got the BAFTA nom too. A Complete Unknown surprised and it got the BAFTA nomination. I am going against the grain in terms of the guild thing, which I'll bring up. It did not hit any of the costume designing guild, which is the CDG, mm-hmm. but all of these other ones did, I believe. Yeah, all these other ones had hit the guild. So going a little against the grain, what the guild did instead was Maria and Dune Part 2. I would say look out for Maria because I forget that costume designer's name. It's like Massimo Martini or something, but he has snuck in for films that were much less seen than Maria. Like I think he got a costume design nomination for like that Pinocchio film and stuff like that. So, and Maria has some great costumes. It's some showy stuff. I don't completely believe in Maria overall at this point. So I would say look out for him. He would probably be my number 6. I know lots of people will have Dune in this category. Once again, I guess Anthony is joining me on this for this category. I'm believing in the Dune Part 2 underperformance. It missed BAFTA, which I think could say
that's the only costume that are different, I feel like, from the first film.
It is. Everything else is the same, pretty much. So yeah, those still suits. Moving along to production design. We agree again. Wow, we're killing it. The Brutalist, Wicked, Dune Part 2, Conclave.
I feel we've never been in agreement like this.
No, I'm sure it will not continue for the rest of the categories, but this is an easy one with Brutalist, Wicked, Dune, Conclave, and Gladiator 2. What's on the outside in here? I think Nosferatu is probably what lots of people have in there.
Yeah, I just think that the Gladiator 2, like the Colosseum, like I feel like there are more clear sets. And I think maybe they look at that as more of an impressive feat, which is why I toyed with Nosferatu a lot, but I think I just in the end felt that the scope of Gladiator 2's production design was a little bit bigger. The one thing I feel like we should bring up that will cascade for the rest of the predictions, and maybe it doesn't affect the predictions, but I think it affects the film going forward. The reports of the Brutalist using AI technology, does that hurt it at all? With I don't know. I assume nominations are in, right? So
yeah, nominations are. It ended on Friday.
But I do think going forward, like there are certain categories that I feel like it could have won, but it's going to have this stink over it because I'm sure that maybe there has been uses of preliminary or early AI technology before, but I feel like this is going to be one of the first major contenders to be open that they used AI to, especially because they used AI
for this film in particular.
I feel like it's
goes against the film itself.
It's a strike against. So
it's definitely a strike against.
Yeah,
I do think it hurts it in the online space a lot more than it does in the industry. I do think a lot of the industry is adapting to and accepting AI. But who knows? It depends how aware they are. Like, I don't know how much we'll get to it. An actor, Adrian Brody, having his Hungarian accent fixed up a little bit. I don't know how aware people will be of that.
I wonder if there's like a whisper campaign that then starts with, those certain categories.
I'm sure.
But to be fair,
Club Chalamet will be on it.
If the Brutalist is dinged for that, but none of the things that people have an issue with Emilia Perez dings that movie, we're going to be in a really interesting.
Well, Emilia Perez used the same AI company. Everyone's just focused on the Brutalist, but Emilia Perez used that same company as well.
It's the bed of nails policy, where if you step on a bed of nails, no one nail sticks out and you're fine. You step on one, it hurts. Maybe that's Emilia Perez is benefiting from a lot of controversies.
Yes, it's just one of many. But yeah, I think the safe 5 here, if you want to go with the safe 5, is swap out Gladiator 2 for Nosferatu, because Wicked, Brutalist, Conclave, Nosferatu, and Dune hit every single precursor they could, whereas Gladiator 2 hit everything besides BAFTA, which I do think is telling, because I feel like Napoleon last year at BAFTA is really where we were able to say, oh, this is maybe more serious than we thought, because it got a few surprises there. So Gladiator missing BAFTA is kind of like, maybe not, but I just feel like you said, the fact that they built this entire Colosseum, it's such a huge, grand achievement that I feel like compared to these other films, Nosferatu is the weakest of those 4. It's not in picture, so that's the one I had to drop.
And just like as you said, like there is no Bake Off right this year to show that story off, so that could hurt Gladiator 2 because we're going under the impression that they could be like, look what we built. But if you don't know that, then maybe Nosferatu is the more recent film. I think in the end, it is it. I don't know. Do you think which film? I don't think in the end Gladiator 2 was looked upon as a as a flop or anything. I think it was well regarded, did well. I think
Yeah.
it's not. I think it hurts.
I
Being
think Nosferatu is a bigger success.
And Nosferatu is a more recent success, but I don't think Gladiator 2 has a stink on it. It's I think
not technically,
and I think it's faring. I think it has a better opinion than not Napoleon did of itself. So it's
oh yeah,
interesting to see how Gladiator 2 performs.
It will be for sure. Agreed. I think other thing is A Complete Unknown. I think I would, if it really overperforms, I would look out for it. I know they built like that whole small town area that we saw all those set photos in. I would say if it's like really overperforming, because it did get ADJ and
Town was right outside my window. It was so funny. I was like, that's Hoboken. That's not New Jersey.
To best film editing. Okay, some disagreement here. Okay. So we agree, obviously, on Conclave, Emilia, Perez, and I do think Dune will get this because it's got the sound correlation, and I can't kick it out of everywhere else. I'd have to kick it out of picture. You're going with Anora, which makes sense. I'll go with why I don't have Anora in here in a second. But you're also going with Wicked, which I do think is the thing most people aren't going with. Why are you going with those two, but Wicked in particular?
So it's funny. I feel like we have like one of our picks, A Complete Unknown and Wicked. We have the sound corollary there. So I think first off, that's something I think Wicked has going in its favor. This is one of the ones where I feel like this and Score are the ones that I think I'm really like going out on a limb with Wicked, and I am assuming that that there's just a lot of love there for the film. I feel like in the end, like I'm looking at challengers and I'm like A Complete Unknown, like they just seem like sensible, reasonable picks. The other movie that neither of us have is The Brutalist. I just feel like it's just very long.
It missed Ace and BAFTA nomination, so
I think that's why we're not looking at that one. So when I look at then the ones that are in consideration, to me, challengers just feels a little bit too cool for them. Like I feel like it's too like Tick Tick Boom was like right on the cusp. And it brought a lot of attention to its editing. And you could argue the same thing about Challengers. Maybe Challengers is your 11, right on the cusp of Best Picture, and it does bring a lot of attention to the editing. And if it happens, I wouldn't be that surprised. I would probably have Challengers above A Complete Unknown. But I don't know. I feel like if Challengers gets editing and screenplay, like then why isn't it in Best Picture? Like it just feels like it's too much. I think that in the end is what
I've said that the whole season, but now I'm going against myself. But yeah.
And then I don't know. I feel like when I'm looking at A Complete Unknown versus Wicked, I think it in the end depends what movie you think the Academy likes more. And I personally feel like those movies are neck and neck. And you could be right. Maybe A Complete Unknown at the last second is kind of like one-upping Wicked. But I do think it's a musical. It's flashy. And I think, say what you will, I think the fact that it was so rewatchable and so successful proves that you don't feel the length. If you were going to choose, I feel like people probably feel the length more with A Complete Unknown. So I do think that's a note in Wicked's favor. And I do think that Wicked is a bigger contender than you. So in that regard, I do think this is a place where you could see maybe that support come. Anora just hasn't missed anything. So I would be pretty surprised if this is here.
No, Anora makes sense. The people who have hit everything are Anora, Conclave, and Dune Part 2 have hit every precursor they could. Emilia Perez just missed CCA, but that's not really a huge miss, especially with critics, because Emilia Perez doesn't work great with critics. So those four all make sense. I'm going with Anora missing simply because this category and this branch in particular does not really tend to go for directors who are also their editors. I remember Roma, which got like 10 plus nominations. It did not get editing, I think, partially because Alfonso Cuarón was the editor of the film. I feel like part of them is like, okay, well, you're the director, you're the writer, you're all this other stuff. Like you'll get noticed there. We're not going to give it to you for editing as well. I do think editing is an issue a little bit with the film. I wouldn't say editing is its strongest suit compared to other categories it's contending in. And I just also don't think it's going to end up being a top 3 picture contender. I feel like this category is kind of going to tell us that the race is between Conclave and Emilia Perez, in my opinion, for the win. So that's why I have that missing. And then I'm going with the 2 sunglasses up there. A Complete Unknown, I'm just it hasn't hit a single editing precursor, so it's not the smartest thing to do. But I'm just feeling like it's going to overperform. Like as we continue throughout this entire season, every single precursor and like awards body that we hit, it continues to do better than we expected. And it's just like, I feel like that's going to build up, especially with the voting being extended a few days, to a complete unknown doing very well come Oscar nomination morning. And like I said, I think it's a top 5 film, and usually editing has at least 4 of the top 5 films in there. And challengers, I agree with exactly what you said. I've said the entire season, you can't get screenplay and film editing and then miss picture. That just doesn't happen. I don't think that's ever happened before. Those are 2 categories that are far too strong for you to get in both of them and miss picture. So it doesn't make sense. The alternatives, I'm not going to go with the Brutalist when it's missed everything. And I do think it's going to underperform compared to what people expect.
It feels like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood to me, the Brutalist, which like people were thinking was the best picture front runner, and then it misses editing. And then that's what the whole, everybody was, it's so funny how that like just made everybody be like, all right, we're done. It's not going to win a best picture. And I don't know, that's what this feels like.
How do you feel about the substance in this category? It got the ACE nomination. Maybe. I'm trying to think what else I would do besides challengers. I just don't know what it would be.
There's still the patina of me that feels, are we really overhyping? Like, because we've been on this roller coaster the entire season. Are we still overhyping the substance? I feel like we still have potential to, but I think that could happen. I would be surprised. I wouldn't be shocked. And also to know, I forgot to mention, Wicked did get an ACE, so it does have guild support.
It did, yeah.
Here. So yeah, I think honestly why this is maybe one of the more trickier crafts is because there are movies that make sense to be in this category, like challengers, like The Substance. But then you also know that film editing is a big precursor for picture. And so when we're kind of floundering still, I think now that Emilia Perez has garnered so much controversy, like we're wondering, is that the front runner? Is The Brutalist the front runner? But it's not even going to be in film editing. Like that's what I think is really fascinating about this category. Because I agree with a lot of the things you said about Anora. I could see a world where Anora misses, but also it hasn't missed anywhere. So it's hard to think that it will miss. I also think comedies with that dramatic bent, I feel like do tend to do well in this category. I feel like Jojo Rabbit did well. It got getting in over like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in 2019. So that's kind of why I feel like Anora is going to be fine. I also think the Roma comparison, I feel like the issue with Roma was
that's a slow film.
It was slow. Yeah. And I do think that there is a detriment to any film that is seen primarily on Netflix on a screener. Anora did well in theaters. I think a lot of the film editors probably saw it in the theater. So, this category is fascinating.
I think I'll probably end up swapping out challengers for Anora because I just, like I say, I can't have challengers getting editing and spoiler screenplay. So I've got to pick one of them, and I feel screenplay feels more possible here to me than editing. But I don't know. I just feel like it's such high energy. It's a sports drama. King Richard gun here that was in Best Picture, but I feel like it's just one of the best, obviously edited films of the year. That I'm just like, maybe I'm hope digging a little bit because like it should get in there, but it probably won't. Who knows?
I mean, listen,
we're both taking a little risk.
Nightmare Alley got what, 3 nominations in picture, right?
Yeah.
If challenges editing, screenplay, score, song, that could be your number 10, and maybe it's
if
not.
It gets all of that, it needs to be in Best Picture. I'm sorry, it can't get all of that and not be.
Like maybe I don't know. I mean, listen, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever got 5 nominations, including in acting.
But they weren't I feel like screenplay and editing is a different tier than like those tags.
You can get a large sum and not get into picture, but I agree with you. Like and that's why I brought it up. Like I just feel like you can't get those 2.
I don't think it's ever happened before in the expanded era where you get those 2 because they're such top tier like picture categories and you don't get picture. Yeah. So I would say pick one of them, and I'm telling that to myself as well. So in the edit, you'll probably see, or in the awards expert app, you can follow both of us on there now.
Yes, I just joined.
You joined the hive. You can probably see what I end up doing there. I'll probably just throw Anora in there. So who knows? Moving along to cinematography. This is another one that I had trouble with in some ways, and I had to kill a sweet, innocent child of mine, unfortunately. But we both agree on Conclave.
I'm sorry for your loss.
I know. Yeah. It's unfortunate. I'm still mourning.
If there's a trend and a strategy among our nominations, it seems that if we're given the choice, I will lean Wicked, and you apparently are leaning a complete unknown in like all of these.
It's gonna overperform. I'm sorry, it's gonna overperform. Every sign that is pointing to a complete unknown is like it's gonna it just continues to do better. So I'm not going against it. But I think we can all agree Conclave, Brutalist, Nosferatu, those have hit every single precursor they need to. They're the only three. Oh well, no. Dune Part 2, which you have in there, has also hit every single precursor that it could. I'm sorry, sequels do not get into this category. They just don't.
It's undeniable.
They just don't.
Most sequels don't look this good. And I also think the thing that helps Dune Part 2 is
Avatar 2 looked good.
But Avatar 2 is visual effects. I think that's
Dune Part 2.
I feel like you cannot tell me that Dune Part 2 has
not
a lot
same
more
level.
camera elements than Avatar 2.
Just a little.
Just a little
bit. Just a little bit.
In Part 2, the same way that I object to when you compare Wicked to like a blockbuster, I'm like, I think it's a different thing. We haven't seen that sort of movie in this space before. I think Dune Part 2 just does not play like a traditional science fiction sequel. I think it is much better regarded than that. And given the first film won, and this is not that much of a demotion from like, if anything, it's an improvement over the cinematography in the first film. I would be shocked, given all the precursors, that it wasn't one of the 5.
I think people will be shocked.
Like Maria, which granted, it has a very, very popular, very
Ed Lockman.
Successful.
He got in for El Conde last year. Who expected that? Got nothing.
I wouldn't be shocked, but I don't know. I'm gonna stick with Dune Part 2.
It's a risk. It's kind of a risk for Maria. The ASC did not help us at all this year because they nominated 7 freaking movies. Very useless ASC. But I just feel like it's Ed Lockman. It's one of the best looking films of the year. And he got in last year for a Netflix film that he shot that was, I think, even less seen than Maria. That was black and white, which always helps in this category. But Maria is also black and white in some points. So I'm sticking with him. I had him out for a little bit, but then I saw him get the ASC, even though they did too many films. I was like, it's possible. It feels too showy for me to not go with it. And I'm just going to continue, say, with Dune. The only sequels that have gotten in here are the first nominations for those franchises. With like Mad Max Fury Road, a Harry Potter sequel got in here, stuff like that, that were the first nominations.
Every time you bring Blood Prince getting that nomination, my heart warms. It's one of my favorites.
It's a good nomination. There was one like Skyfall got a nomination here, but they're the first nominations for the franchise, even though they're sequels. The only time that has happened was, I believe, what's it called? The first Christopher Nolan Batman film, Batman Begins, and The Dark Knight both got cinematography nominations. So it's possible, but it's only happened once in the history of the category, and I just don't see it happening.
Dune Part 2, I believe, will become the 4th sequel to be nominated in Best Picture, where the previous film was also, because we're Two Towers, Godfather Part 2, Avatar: The Way of Water, and then Dune Part 2. Like,
you can count Return of the King too.
But I'm talking about just like direct sequels. Like I do Return of the King as well. But so I do think like when you look at that, like that is a small group. So the idea that Dune Part 2 could by odds, it's like, well, yeah, because it's already one of.
Do you know what didn't get nominated here? Two Towers.
What? Yes, I'm aware.
Two Towers. Neither did Return of the King. Return of the King swept and won so many awards, and it didn't get nominated in this category.
That's ridiculous. But
they don't go for sequels.
And maybe you're right. And maybe it's Maria and Emilia Perez, which we can talk about.
Let's talk about Emilia Perez.
Yeah, I think this could be if we're, because again, I feel like when the voting was happening, it probably was the best time for Emilia Perez. It was coming off some big wins, and I think that the discourse hadn't turned quite yet, not as strong. And so I could see Emilia Perez in this idea that maybe when it was the nominating period, it was the front runner. Could do well. I think it's a musical, so it does have a lot of those flashy elements. I think it has the musical sequences, the action sequences. I think it has a wide variety of what it is depicting in its cinematography. So I think that could get in. What I'm curious of, because I'm very thankful for our fans who have been filling us in around the globe. I think it's really cool for us that we have a global audience. Yeah. I think what we're trying to figure out right now is where is the international voters feeling? Are they feeling more like a lot of our users, where
all the precursors show that they like it?
Or are they more in step with the American audiences who like it? I think that's still left. We still have to wait to see where.
I feel like I feel like they like it more than even the Americans. Like it's international in terms of European. I have no clue how like the South America. There's not really like a South American specific voting body, so I'm not sure. I feel like that is more of an online thing than an industry thing. Everything that is showing at the industry is just like with BAFTA, with the EFA, with Golden Globes, which are all more international bodies. And the Academy is more international European than international South American. So everything is pointing to that film being strong, but I don't have it in for cinematography just because I can't give it everything. And it didn't. When ASC nominated 7 films, they still didn't do Emilia Perez. Once again, that is the specific guild that is voting for what gets nominated here, not everyone. It did get in that BAFTA where it is everyone voting for it. It also got, I think, a BSC nomination. So it's gotten some stuff, but when ASC does 7 spots and it still doesn't choose that, like, I feel like that film is going to get a lot of nominations, but that is with some of these other films, cinematography is more of like a standout of that film. Was Emilia Perez, it doesn't have like the lighting stuff that they tend to go for more. So I feel like it's not more like camera movements that are showy, more so than the lighting.
I think the musical sequences have the lightings, flashy lighting. That's
some of them, yeah.
More so than a complete unknown. I think a complete unknown is the sort of thing that's just like well done, consummate, like just craftsmanship. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think it's just going to continue to overperform, is what I say. And it got the ASC nomination. It's I believe Papa Michael is the cinematographer. He's done well before in the past. So those are our differences there. I think we need to mention it, even though it's nowhere on this graphic. Nickel Boys, the best cinematography of the year, as I mentioned earlier, Killing My Children. It's the only precursors it got was a Critics' Choice nomination, and it could have gotten ASC, but they gave it the spotlight instead, which I think means it's then ineligible for making the top 7, which it was this year. So
we don't want to leave you out, but we left you out.
Yeah, I think the spotlight section is apparently for films that are like in a very limited or like underseen release, which I guess is Nickel Boys. Amazon MGM is just flopping and they suck this year. No offense to them at campaigning this film. Like, do your job. Same with you, A24 and Sing Sing. Like, you have one job, do it. But yeah, it should be nominated here.
A24 is getting their movies nominated. Other movies. What is? Like, it's not like Challengers is like getting Best Picture nominated. If they were, I think you would at least forgive. Oh, wow. Really?
Oh, those are the 2 best films of the year. Yeah,
your 2 favorites. Jesus.
Exactly. I hate you, Amazon MGM. My top 2 films of the year, you're flopping.
Champion of the lost cause.
I like the movies you make.
Because it got a Guild nomination. I will be very upset if I overpredict Wicked in all these categories.
That's what I was going to say.
Is cinematography.
It got ASC and the Critics' Choice nomination. That's 2 precursors. That's pretty good. That's better than Nickel Boys.
Yeah.
So it's possible. I don't think it's gonna get that quite. I feel like you can kind of connect this category a little bit to like the director's branch category in terms of being maybe a little more prestige-y, a little more high-minded with what they go for. And I don't think Wicked falls into that. I guess the only other thing to mention is Girl with the Needle got an ASC spotlight mention as well, but I would have needed to see that get something else for it to sneak in there. So I'm not going to go with that. But yeah, that's cinematography. It's a tricky one. Nickel Boys getting in here would be so amazing, but I just can't do it. We'll get to Nickel Boys in other categories where we'll get to it. Moving on to animated feature. This is like the easiest locked 5 of any category of the entire night. If you're doing something besides this 5, I don't know what you're doing with The Wild Robot, Flow, Inside Out 2, Wallace and Gromit, and Memoir of a Snail. Extremely easy. Do we have anything to say?
If you're doing something other than this 5, send us what you're smoking.
What are you even doing? Like, what is the option? Moana 2?
I guess.
Chicken with Linda? I think it'll be interesting if The Wild Robot misses, like we were talking about, song and score. I do think Flow could win here. I'm still not willing to say that Flow will win when you expand it to everyone voting, but I don't know.
You have the whole Academy voting, so I think that leans more towards the popular fare. So we'll see.
Yeah. I agree. Boy in the Heron had that's the thing. Boy in the Heron was going up against, which we talk about in this category, a sequel, which they don't give the wins to besides Toy Story. Wild Robot is not a
sequel. And
a superhero sequel. That was a part 1.
Yeah. I know it's based on a book, but it's an original IP. Well regarded, big hit at the box office. And also, Boy in the Heron was Miyazaki.
Miyazaki. Flow is not Miyazaki, unfortunately. Yeah. It's as good, but doesn't have that name. So yeah, I would love to see it, just like I'd love to see Nickel Boys, but I will not predict it. Moving along. Documentary. We agree. Wow, documentary feature. That means it's destined to be 1 for 5 here. This category is the most insane thing ever. we both got. I think No Other Land is currently the front runner. It still doesn't have a distributor, I think, which is kind of insane. So I could miss. The front runner often misses here, so I could see that happen. You've got Daughters, Sugarcane, Black Box Diaries, and Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat. What's your reasoning here, Anthony, for these picks? Do you have any?
Oh yes, I have this insight. I've been, judging this since February of last year. No, I think. Listen,
Yes,
I look forward to seeing these movies. I think a lot of times this is a shot in the dark, especially with this branch. They will go off in some weird tangents, and so this felt right. The vibes are good. What can I say?
yeah, it does feel like a good 5. I agree with the vibes for sure. Precursor wise, there's not a ton to go off here, but I will, in case the audience wants to hear it. Northernland's got BAFTA, the Berlin Documentary Award, CEH, EFA, and Gotham, and IGA. So it's obviously got the most of any of them. Daughters has BAFTA, CCA, CEH, DGA. Porcelain War, which is neither of us have in here, got 4 Precursor nominations. So that helps it out as well. Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat has 5, and Sugarcane has 3. Black Box Diaries also has 3. Will and Harper has 2. So I feel like if you're looking on something on the outside, I would say look out for Will and Harper, maybe, but that is a celebrity thing, a celebrity doc. So I'm not going to go with those.
It's a little different. I would not necessarily put that in the celebrity doc because it's not about the celebrity. The celebrity
no, and it's about an important topic.
Used as a literal vehicle to bring us
literally
important issue. I just watched it over the weekend. Thought it was
it's a great movie.
Lovely. So I could see that
if it gets nominated, it could win.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So we'll see. But I have it on the outside looking in.
Yeah, I agree. My number 6 would probably be Porcelain War, which I could see sneaking in there. But I just decided not to go for it because Picture House is not the strongest distributor, and I've heard about it the least compared to these other 5, which I have heard about a little bit along the way. So that's documentary feature. Good luck, guys. 2 out of 5, I think, would be considered an accomplishment here. So moving on to another category that often has some surprises: international film. We agree on 4 with Emilia, Perez, I'm Still Here, See the Sacred Fig, and Vermiglio. Everyone will have those top 3, I'm pretty sure, and then Vermiglio just makes sense. The Italian part of this branch always goes out for the Italian films. The Italian films do great here, and it's gotten great critical acclaim. I just feel like that's going to happen. You're going with, I think, what most people probably should go with Kneecap. It did great at the BAFTAs. It overperformed there, getting stuff like editing. That makes sense. I'm going with a little bit of a swing here, even though it hasn't hit any precursors. How to Make Millions Before Grammatize. I believe it's Thailand's first time being shortlisted in this category. It's gotten great reviews, and it just kind of reminds me of a few years ago when was Lunana a Yak in the Classroom, like got pretty much, it got, I think, a few things compared to this film, but just kind of like shocked in the category. I don't know, something about this film is just ringing to me like, that's going to be a surprise. And I don't want to go with
the titles, man. We talk about that a lot.
It's a good title.
It's a flashy title, but I just think you can't ignore the strength that the BAFTAs gave Kneecap. And
it's on Netflix too.
Yeah.
So that visibility helps for sure. I think also on the outside, Girl with the Needle from Denmark is definitely in contention. I just think that might be the subject matter of that. I think it just might be a little too dark for people to get through, especially if they're like going through it, which I think lots of voters are right now. So I don't know. That also only got Golden Globe in terms of precursors, whereas all these other ones got multiple other ones. I'm not going to keep saying all of them. Just know that these other ones got pretty much everything that they could. Also worth mentioning, Flow has hit in CCA and EFA here. It is technically an international film. I just do think the fact that it's technically an international film, but there's no like actual like language being used in it besides like meows, I guess, that I think people are not going to quite associate it with this category. But it could surprise if it overperforms. It could definitely get this. I think only one other film has gotten international feature and animated feature. Yeah, I think Flea, yeah.
Yeah. Right, I think it was Flea. It was because it went up against Encanto. But I think what helped with Flea is that it was also a documentary. It got all 3. I think Flow, you're right about the language, and I don't think it has that overwhelming sense of it's going to be in all these different pots. I think it's going to be a little difficult to get in. If it was the whole Academy voting, maybe, but given that it's just the branch specific.
This branch is a little more prestige as well. So I don't know. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think only other thing I'll mention is Dahomey has gotten great reviews. It's a short doc that always helps. I think it's under 60 minutes. And it got the EFA nom and the Berlin nom. So possible, but I'm not going to quite go for it. So that's international feature. I feel pretty decent about that. Moving on. Let's get into our top categories, guys. Adapted screenplay. So we share the top 4 here with Emilia, Perez, Conclave, A Complete Unknown, and Sing Sing.
Bye-bye, Doom Part 2.
Yeah, thanks. Finally, people have had it in for so long, but it's underperformed.
I just think it was what was going to take it, and I think A Complete Unknown was like,
it just makes sense. Yeah, it's from a previous 2-time Oscar nominee with Jay Cox. It continues to overperform. It got BAFTA and WGA. I don't think it'll win WGA. We'll see.
You really think
what?
You're going to be this lucky that Sing Sing and Nickel Boys get into this category?
Yeah, I'll say the BAFTAs, when it comes to the films that they nominate in screenplay, they're usually either 9 for 10 or 10 for 10. And if you look at the 10 this year, the one that's obviously not getting it is Kneecap. And then you just copy the same 5 over from Adapted. They're usually pretty predictive, the BAFTAs in terms of that. And Nickel Boys has gotten even more precursors than Sing Sing. Nickel Boys has BAFTA, CCA, and WGA. I guess Sing Sing wasn't eligible, so you can't really hold it against that for WGA. Sing Sing got BAFTA, Critics' Choice, and Conclave has BAFTA, Critics' Choice, Golden Globe. Emilia Perez has BAFTA, Critics' Choice, Golden Globe, as well as the EFA. And yeah, that's it. I believe Dune just has Critics' Choice and WGA, and Wicked, which we'll get to, which you have, has Critics' Choice and WGA as well. Yeah. I just don't think that they're going to go for Wicked. It just doesn't. When you look at the writers' branch and the stuff that they tend to go for, Wicked doesn't really fit their taste to me.
I will say that what I'm holding my hat on is Top Gun Maverick getting into this category a couple of years ago.
But there weren't any other options that year. I feel like they've got options this year.
Fair, but you are much higher in Nickel Boys than I think the industry is.
Nickel Boys is going to win the WGA.
Yeah, and it's also going to probably win DGA First Feature. So it's weird how like it's in the bubble, but not in the.
We'll get to in this with picture. Nickel Boys has not underperformed as much as people I think it has. I don't think it was ever going to hit SAG or BAFTA.
We'll see. I feel like you could end up being right, but you could also be
the people who Nickel Boys will play the best with is the Academy. I'm just going to keep telling myself that the Academy is where it will be the strongest.
Again, I don't deny you, and I think I could end up, applauding you for sticking with
hopefully
your favorite. But I just think in the end, I think you would also agree that Wicked is probably the better contender over Nickel Boys.
It's a strong, yeah.
And so I think that at that point, I just feel like they've shown that they will nominate popular stuff in screenplay. I think that people give a lot of credit to the adaptation of this very popular musical into being a very successful film. I think a lot of people are like satisfied that I think personally, this now is the answer to, other than Deathly Hallows, what's the best example of splitting something into 2 parts? And I think it gets a lot of credit for how adapted this material. So yeah, I think it gets in. It would be crazy to have 2 musicals in here. I will admit that.
It would be, yeah.
But I don't know. I just think Nickel Boys and Sing Sing is like, we'll get to it. Marianne Baptiste and Fernanda Torres. I think you're wishing too much from the Academy.
I said the same thing at BAFTAs where I was like, well, I'm just going to put both of them in there and hedge my bets because I'm not sure which one it'll be. And then it just ended up being both of them because the alternatives are Wicked, which isn't really a screenplay film to me, and Dune Part 2, both of these blockbuster sequel in a way, not really with Wicked kind of films. And the only other thing is Hitman, which got WJ. It's just like the options aren't there, that they're just going to go with obviously the 2 strongest screenplays of those options.
I am curious to see, and in the end, what is the Nickel Boys trajectory? Because you look at like Ramel Ross was included in the directors roundtable at Hollywood Reporter. So like the movie is, I just don't understand why it's clicking in some regards, but not clicking overall. Like it's just like how it gets one nomination at the Golden Globe and it's Best Picture. Like it's a really, like, when the nominations come out, I feel like we got to take a step back and be like, what was going on with this release? What was going on with this movie?
Yeah.
Like, yes, it is unique. Maybe that's why. But like, it's really interesting to see a movie like this that some people like you were like, this is going to win Best Picture. And then some people
it's not going to do that. No.
Are still trying to figure it out. Like, what is Nickel Boys? So we'll see what happens. But again, yeah,
I think a wild card.
Yeah, it's crazy. So Want to jump to original screenplay, which I think is
let's talk about it.
A little
okay,
bit more
we agree. We agree. Okay, with the substance, challengers, the brutalist, anora, and a real pain. Challengers, I think, is the obvious number 5 here. That top 4, I think, is pretty clearly getting in there, and challengers is the number 5. I was gonna go with hard truths. That's what I had originally, like when we did our collaboration with Ryan Cosman. Go check that out. It's a little old at this point, considering some of our predictions. And hard truths didn't hit any single precursor. It didn't even get BAFTA longlisted for screenplay. So I just kind of feel like I don't think it's got. When Mike Lee gets an Oscar nomination, he usually gets a BAFTA nomination. The only time that didn't happen, I think, was Happy Go Lucky. I think that's the only time that didn't cross over. But it's possible. They obviously love him. The writers branch love him in his films. He's gotten, I think, like 5 nominations from them. So it's in there. The only other options are what?
That's I was looking for that. And once it got in there, I think it has the better profile. People have seen it, which I can't quite say for Hard Truths. And so it just feels like May, December. Like it's like the flashy, more young, movie. And I think Justin Kritzky's gets credit for this and Queer, which we'll talk about is not going to be ignored.
No.
The Academy. So I think that I'm feeling like if it doesn't get it, I'm not going to be that surprised, but I'm not going to be surprised if it gets in. And the other 4 are locks.
The other 4 are locks, and Challengers does just make the most sense. I guess you could also bring up September 5, which got the Critics' Choice nomination here, and it also did sneak in at PGA. So it's definitely possible. I just continue to think that that's a fake film, in my opinion. I just feel like the places it played best with were with. I have seen it. It's just fine. Okay. It's okay. I don't understand all the hype. But the places it played best were with journalists at the Golden Globes, a body full of journalists and critics, and then with producers, which the film is literally about producers and journalists. So of course they like the film. So I feel like, I don't know, when you carry it to the writers.
I'll say that I do think there's a world where substance wins this category, and I could also see a world where you wake up and it's not even nominated. Like that's the sort of like
I feel like it'll be nominated.
I think it will be nominated. I'm feeling good about it. Again, I think it could win this category. But if
I have it winning right now.
If it misses, I would also be like, okay. I mean, maybe
it's got a better shot here than in another category. I would say multiple other categories. It's the category it won at Cannes, so I feel like that really helped it as well. Even though I do think the screenplay compared to other aspects of the film is not its strongest. It's just not that
dialogue heavy. That's what I worry about. It's very visual, which is why I think.
But it's a very original idea, which I do think they like, especially in this category.
You got it. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what we're going with. I don't feel great about it because I'm probably gonna have to get challengers at editing. So. But yeah, it'll get screenplay at least. That'll be the May December thing all over again. Moving on now to let's get into it. The acting categories.
Woohoo!
Oh, we agree. We've gone 5 for 5. This feels like the easy 5. Our supporting actor video on the day of recording just came out earlier today, and we agree on these 5 with Edward Norton, Jeremy Strong, Guy Pearce, Yuri Borisov, and Kieran Culkin. Just feel like the safe 5. I guess the other option. I think the number 6 at this point is Clarence Macklin for Sing Sing, who did surprise and get a BAFTA nomination.
It could also be Skinny Tucci in Conclave, I feel.
But he hasn't hit a single thing. He didn't even get BAFTA.
I think this is your vibe.
It just seems so obvious. Like the only thing, all of these people besides Jeremy Strong have hit every precursor they could. And the only thing Jeremy Strong missed was what he didn't get he didn't get Critics' Choice nomination, I'm pretty sure is what he missed. So I don't know. SAG, BAFTA, and Golden Globe for Jeremy Strong just feels super strong compared to everything else, where Clarence Macklin just has BAFTA, and Denzel Washington is not happening after he missed SAG. So, yeah, that's supporting actor. If you want more in-depth breakdown, you can check out our video of it. But yeah, let's go to the craziest acting category of them all, in my opinion. Supporting actress. Shockingly, we agree on 4 here. Okay. We agree on Zoe Saldana for Emilia, Perez, Ariana Grande for Wicked, Isabella Rossellini for Conclave. I feel like that's a very solid top 3 right there. I think everyone's got those 3. Locked in. I feel like you need to have those 3. Jamie Lee Curtis, late breaker here for The Last Showgirl. When she got SAG, I said all she needs to do is get BAFTA, and then we predicted her to get BAFTA for her to get in here. She got the 2 biggest nominations you can get, the 2 industry nominations. Who cares if she missed the 2 critics groups? The people actually voting on this are the people voting at SAG and BAFTA.
And this was a late breaker too, so I think that it makes sense. She hit the late breaking awards.
And she's just a campaigner like no one else. Like actors clearly love her. The fact that she always shouts out other people and is always giving other people love, I think, is something that really endears her to actors. She's great at campaigning, and it's a good performance. I don't know if you've seen the film.
Yeah.
I like her performance in this more than in Everything Everywhere. It's a showy performance. She's got a
We're
specific scene.
going to be hearing that if she gets nominated, we're going to hear that the rest of the season.
Yeah. Yeah.
Listen, it does help if enough people like this better than the performance, your previous Oscar nominated or winning performance. I think it helps you. I think what's interesting, little bit of foreshadowing. Neither of us have Pamela Anderson or Sebastian Stan, so we think that both of the supporting performances are going to get in. I feel that it's just that,
which happens often.
Categories, it does happen. But I also think it speaks to the individuals that I think, like Jamie Lee, I do worry about like whether Pamela Anderson is going to, like the same way that Jennifer Lopez was not given the nomination for Hustlers. Like I feel like that's going to happen to Pamela Anderson.
She reminds me of Jennifer Aniston. She reminds me of Jennifer Aniston in Cake, who I think hit the exact same precursors, which is just SAG and Golden Globes, where it's like not quite there. That's all I'll say.
But I think Jamie Lee Curtis brings more into this performance,
and she's a previous nominee. She's having like her afterglow time. Previous winner. I blocked that out of my memory. All
right. Have at it.
Do you want to go for Ingenue Ellis Taylor? We talked about this in our supporting actors video as well, so I don't want to keep repeating myself. But every year for the past 3 years, there's been a Critics' Choice nominee who has just gotten the Critics' Choice nomination and carried over to the Oscars. Every time in the supporting categories as well, I believe, with J.K. Simmons, Brian Tyree Henry, and last year America Ferrera. Ingenue Ellis Taylor, I'll just keep saying it. It is such a good performance. It's, in my opinion, the best of the year. I know this isn't a merit award thing. It should be, but it's not. But all of her scenes.
It's for every single person. It's just we don't always agree
if they see the films. But yeah, I feel like every scene Ingenue Ellis Taylor is in this film is the best scene of this film. Like every time she pops up, the film is just more emotional. Especially like I don't want to spoil scenes because obviously people aren't seeing it. But I'll just say every time she pops up, she's pretty much talking emotionally and like with conflicted emotions directly to the camera. It's a close up. She's emotional. She's going through it. I feel like it's a showy performance. It's one of my favorite performances of the year. And I'll keep saying Nickel Boys is going to perform best with the Academy compared to any other voting body. BAFTA, it's an American film with a black ensemble. They're not going to give Nickel Boys a ton of love. And the one thing that it could have gotten there, it did get with the WGA. The one thing that it was longlisted for, it ended up getting in there. And then SAG, it's an avant-garde, more artsy film. That's a populist voting body. They're not going to go for that also. And then what else the fact that it missed PGA, that's fine to me with the producers. I don't feel like that's really a producer kind of pick. I feel like some of the other options of these films, I'm talking about picture stuff now.
I was about to say, I think you're spoiling your discussion.
Yeah. But listen, I don't know. It's a passion. I'm going down with the ship. I have to.
And I applaud you for it. I always respect your commitment to the lost
cause. Just like Charles Melton.
Yeah, exactly. I think Margaret Qualley has been coming on strong. She just did a great interview with Josh Horowitz, if you haven't seen it on YouTube. And yeah, I just think that there is no denying if the substance is coming on as strong as we think it is, you can't not give credit to Margaret Qualley. She is half the movie.
She is.
And so I think she benefits from being a lead in supporting as Saldana and Grande are. And yeah, I just feel like it just feels right. Makes sense to me.
How do you feel the fact that she's missed? We talked about Jamie Lee hitting the two big industry bodies. She missed SAG and BAFTA, which are the two big industry voting bodies, and she's only gotten critics' love. So
that's why she's closer to 5 than she is 1.
Yes,
but I also think that substance is going to do better with the Academy than it will those other two groups. So I'm contributing that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I can. She's probably my number 6 or 7. She's possible. Other people I would mention: Selena Gomez for Emilia Perez. She hit, I believe, she hit the BAFTA awards and she hit the Golden Globe nominations. It's what she got. If Emilia Perez overperforms like we kind of expect it to, she easily could just coattail in there.
She could be Stephanie Hsu, as far as there's one that's for sure, and then the other one surprises. I also think that Felicity Jones could, but I'm gaining that the more people see the movie, the more people are just
they're not finishing it.
Half.
Well, they're also not finishing it. I don't think. I think that they get to the second half and they might not finish it. And the second half, they're more likely to be watching the first half than the second half. And the second half is when Felicity Jones arrives. She's not in the first half at all. And
Mhm.
it is a divisive performance. I think most people like it, but I think of the three, it's definitely the least
Mhm.
beloved of the three.
Yeah,
So I just worry about a visibility issue in terms of people finishing the film when it comes to her.
it's
There's a
very.
whole article about that the other day about
I
people
mean,
not finishing
it's.
it.
I think it's what we said about with Robert De Niro in The Irishman. His best moments were in the wake of the film, and if people weren't making it to the wake of the film,
And
then
they're
that's
both long films.
very long. I think they're almost the
People,
same. Irishman was what 318, maybe without credits, maybe it was like
I think
325,
so.
and then Brutalist
Yeah,
is 35 with the intermission. So
they're close. Yeah. And I do think if they put off watching this film, I think it will. I don't know. I feel like you'll maybe sample it a little bit, but you might not get all the way to the end, especially because it's not like it's like a. I think people, especially right now, given everything going on within the industry, they might not want to go with like the super long, like kind of dark nihilistic film rather than a more fun watch.
I think
So,
like let's wait to see post nomination what we're dealing with, but
mhm.
the mentality and the tone and the mood, the atmosphere, it's all these different words for the same thing.
Yes.
Post
Yeah.
fire could be interesting and could help a movie that I'm rooting
Some
for
films
very well.
I don't know about that film, but some films, yes.
We'll see.
I think the last person to mention here would be Monica Barbaro for A Complete Unknown. I've been
I
saying,
toyed with her a lot.
me
I
too. But the issue is her only precursor is the SAG nomination. And the last time someone only got a SAG nomination and ended up at the Oscars was, I think, Ruby Dee, and she ended up winning the SAG. So I think that was 2013. So that was a while ago. So it's
Mhm.
not, when you just get SAG, it's usually just kind of a SAG thing. Kind of same, we didn't even talk about him, Jonathan Bailey in Wicked. That's obviously just a SAG thing.
Mhm.
It's not gonna, she didn't
Yeah.
get longlisted, Monica Barbaro,
Yeah, I
but
can't
it's
believe
still
you have
possible.
a complete unknown doing so well in all these categories. And then Monica
Yeah, I
Barbaro
know.
yeah,
Yeah,
it could if it overperforms. She does her own singing. It's a great performance.
it's a great performance.
But
Yeah.
I think he's a little bit like people just don't know who she is yet. So
This is the kind of performance that will help her the next time she's in like an Oscar kind of movie get nominated. This is like
exactly
because I don't think people remember that she was in Top Gun. I don't think
no.
people associate her with that, even though she was in it. But yeah. And I guess also Daniel Deadweiler in Piano Lesson. I don't think either of us think she's got much of a shot, but she hit two precursors. She got SAG and Critics' Choice. That film is no one's watching it. So unfortunately, I just don't think it's
Yeah.
gonna pan out. So let's talk about Best Actor. Oh no, we're talking about actress. Never mind. This is even more insane. Best actress.
And the
Okay,
fact that
we
we agreed
agree.
on four, I think
Is is
crazy.
impressive.
I don't know if
Yeah.
it's
So
impressive.
obviously,
It could be wrong.
well, I feel like there's an obvious top four here, and I'm the one not doing one of them. But yeah, Carlos Upia Gascon for Emilia Perez, Mikey Madison for Anora, Demi Moore for The Substance, and we've both got Fernanda Torres in as well for I'm Still Here. We agree about that. I think the obvious five, the top five that most people are predicting is then in that other spot, you would throw in Cynthia Erivo for
Yeah,
Wicked.
are you
She's had
really
everything
not
she
doing
needed to.
Cynthia Erivo, Jack? Come on.
I think I'm gonna be honest, I think she's gonna get nominated. I'm hedging my bets here because I don't know if it's gonna be Fernanda Torres or Marianne John Baptiste. And I wanna live in the optimistic world where it's both of them.
But then there's other people you could say like Cynthia Erivo is not 4 or 5. I feel.
I think she's number four, yeah.
I think she's higher.
I think the other three are stronger. Who you think Carla's below her?
Probably.
Do you think
I
Mikey's
honestly
below
think
her?
Mikey's below her. I think Cynthia
I don't
Erivo
know
has a
about
more
that.
likely chance of winning because of who Cynthia Erivo is
Mm.
than Mikey Madison winning. And I think Wicked is proving itself to be more exciting than Anora, as we proved with the Golden Globes. I don't know.
But like,
I don't know. You not having Cynthia Erivo on this list is just crazy.
it is a little crazy, I'll admit, because people bring up the Margot Robbie comparison. I think we both don't really agree with that at all because Cynthia Erivo's performance is a Tony-winning role that is emotional. She sings, she dances. It ends with Defying Gravity, so it's the kind of thing that actors will go for.
Margot Robbie's role was reactive. She was the straight woman. That's not.
Mm-hmm.
Cynthia Erivo had one of the best mic drop moments in like movies of the last 10 years.
I don't know about 10 years, but she did have one of the good moments of this past year for sure. I don't know. I also will bring up the statistic of, there's always, at least the last few years, someone who hits every single precursor and then misses at the Oscars. The past 3 years, it was all in this category. Last year it was Margot Robbie. The year before that it was Viola Davis. And the year before that it was,
Lady Gaga.
who was it? Lady Gaga for House of Gucci, of course. Yeah, it was her. And if you're looking for it to happen in this category again, I do think that person would probably be Cynthia Erivo. I do think Emilia Perez is stronger, so I'm not going to have it be Carla Sofia Gascon. And there's just no, what is the precedence for this kind of blockbuster performance getting nominated? It doesn't happen.
But what is the movie that you would compare it to? Like, what type of movie has
Barbie?
But Barbie's not a musical. I think the thing that's getting Cynthia in this category is the degree of difficulty. Cynthia Erivo is much more in line with Renee Zellweger in Chicago and Emma Stone in La La Land than she is Margot Robbie and Barbie. As far as what we're recording,
IP. I feel like there's something about IP that I think in all branches kind of dings you a little bit.
One of the most iconic villains in movie history and one of the most iconic roles on Broadway has a little bit more prestige than playing a Barbie doll.
It does. No, that's why I disagree with the Margot Robbie comparison. I just, as a film overall, I think Wicked is comparable to Barbie in terms of how it will perform as a blockbuster hit that it is in
I'm curious because I think that in the end, Barbie didn't win the crafts that I think the both of us feel like Wicked will win. So
yeah,
it's going to fare better there. So I'm very curious. I am curious to see which, because I think right now there are like 4 movies where we're like, it could underperform or overperform. Wicked, Substance, Complete Unknown, and I'm sure there's one other. I mean, maybe Dune, because we're fluid with that.
Challenge.
And so I'm curious to see we assume all of them are getting picture, which one of them's rise, which one of them fall. That will reveal itself on Thursday.
It will.
So okay, so you really do think that there's no world? You're just hedging your bet. Do you really think there's a world where Marianne and Fernanda both get in?
I think there's a world where that happens. Yes. There has to be, as I talked, there doesn't have to be, but there should be a previous nominee in here. The last time that didn't happen, where it was all first-time nominees, was 1970. I know because I tweeted this. People brought up the 2022 Best Actor race. The difference is that year there was no previous nominee who you could choose to be in there. This year there is. With both the previous nominees are Baptiste and Erivo would be your options here. I do think there's a world where if, like I say, Erivo misses, that it could just end up being, I don't want to say the best of both worlds, but 2 of these more underseen performances. And I feel like with Marianne Jean-Baptiste, there's just going to be, I feel like with both of them, there's going to be passion votes. Like they're going to be the number 1 on people's ballots that I don't know how many number 1s Cynthia Erivo is going to get. I think lots of people will be like, she was good in it. She'll be like my number 3, my number 4, something like that. And she might not garner enough number 1 votes that Baptiste and Torres, so I think have a lot of passion around them, will get. And that's what you need, number 1 votes to keep yourself in there. So
I think Fernanda has a lot of number 1 votes. It's why I ended up going with her. I'm not sure Baptiste, because the type of voter that Baptiste appeals to, they could be swayed by Emilia Perez or Anora or The Substance. The thing about Wicked is that it kind of appeals to the other side of the Academy, like the more populist side that is not really represented in this grouping. And so the type of people that like her, like we can't ignore the fact that Wicked did overperform with SAG with getting Jonathan Bailey in.
Yeah.
So the idea that the actors are going to let Wicked go, like like if we both think it's potential that it could win SAG Ensemble, then I do think Cynthia is in there. Like that she will have number 1 votes, I feel.
Possible. But I don't know. I'm going with, because Marianne Jean-Baptiste also, she won the Critics Trifecta, which is very rare. I believe she was the first woman of color to ever win that. I think she's considered by a lot of people to be the best of the year. And I feel like she's hit kind of like I'm talking about with Nickel Boys. I don't think she's really missed anything she was expected to get. She got BAFTA. She got Critics' Choice, which I think was kind of a surprise. I don't think people completely expected that. She was never going to get SAG. So I kind of she hasn't really missed anything. The thing that's dinging her for me is she's playing an unlikable character, which, as we've seen in the past with especially female characters and actresses, some voting members aren't able to separate the performance from the character. And I do think the fact that she is, for a lot of the film, unlikable, but she's unlikable. But this is, I think, out of any branch, I would hope the most empathetic branch of them all. So I would hope maybe they would have some empathy for her, but I don't know. She's also a previous Oscar nominee. She's a working actress in Los Angeles. I think she has a lot more industry connections than people think she does, especially on the American side, because she lives here. She works with plenty of other American actors in Los Angeles. It's not just a British thing.
Instead of Fernanda, I don't know. I just get the sense that there's more enthusiasm for Fernanda.
But I feel like part of that might be an online thing.
It might be. And I did get to go to a screening with Fernanda and Paul
nice.
last week. So I got to see her. And I also think if you see the movie, like it is a towering performance.
Oh yeah, it's also worth mentioning with her. There's almost always someone playing a real life biopic person in here, and now that Maria is dead, she's the only person who can fulfill that. Everyone else here is an
I don't think
character.
anybody knows that. I didn't know that until the end credits started to roll.
Oh yeah, that's true. But she is playing a real life person, which everyone else here is an original character in a way. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like she'll also have passion votes. I feel less confident about her than I do about Baptiste, but I don't feel great about either. But I'm keeping her in there. Just she missed the BAFTA long list. She didn't get SAG. She won the Golden Globe. She didn't get Critics' Choice. She's really riding off just that Golden Globe win and that happening at the exact right moment.
You might talk me into Baptiste into my 5th spot. And
I do think Baptiste, there was a tweet that went viral the other day about a lot of this just being voting for your friends, which I do think in a way is true. If they don't see all the films, they vote for who they know. And if between those two, I would say Baptiste knows more people within the branch than Torres does.
And it's an English language film, right? Which they tend to.
It is, yeah.
They tend to
go for. That's true. What was Fernanda Torres? We brought this up when it came to SAG, but I haven't thought about it at the Oscars. In terms of foreign performances, we've got Carla in here, but they nominate foreign performances that are in films that are in Best Picture. Not in Best Picture. The only examples are Isabelle Huppert, Marianne Cotillard, stuff like that, and those are more established actresses in European films.
I feel like we're talking each other into dumping Fernanda and taking each of them.
Yes. Maybe we should.
Maybe that's
I don't know.
Doing.
But there's maybe it's also the online thing, but the passion around Fernanda Torres. And she hit the circuit after she won the Golden Globe. She hit like all the talk shows. Yeah, she really campaigned. And she's got a narrative around her that is compelling. I don't know. This is really tricky. That there's 4 people I think we are both confident in, and it's that 5th spot that we're just like, So I don't know. Are you sticking with your 4 or your 5?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know either.
I need to sleep on this now that I think about it. Oh God.
I don't know. I feel good about Baptiste, but when that also worth mentioning, Mike Leigh films, when they get acting nominations, they also get screenplay nominations. I don't think
that's what I was like that it should be in screenplay, and then Challengers gets out, and then maybe you leave Challengers in editing. If this is a house of cards,
that's true. Then I can keep Challengers in editing. But it's just Hartra's missing.
I think we've discussed this at nauseam.
I know, but Hartra's missing everything in terms of screenplay. Just I can't. I wanted to do that, but I can't do that. But Mike Leigh's never gotten an Oscar nominated film besides Mr. Turner, which was just tech nominations that didn't get a screenplay nomination. So,
Mr. Turner gave us the best Oscar nomination moment when the Academy president said "Dick Poop" instead of "Dick Pope."
I don't know that moment. I'll have to look it up after.
Oh God,
Dick Poop. Okay, there you go.
Ceremony, the 2014 films. Google it. Oh
wow,
God.
That will be on my watch list after this.
All right.
So are we sticking with our 5? Are we moving on?
I think we should just move on. I think we've talked about the possibility of this guy.
Okay, look at our awards expert to see if we change our mind in the coming days. I think I might do a Revo's. I just think a Revo's going to happen, but I don't know. Fernanda Torres is definitely my number 5, but we'll see. We'll see. Who knows? Moving on. I can't keep. Well, I think we'll just run in circles if we keep talking about it. So let's move on to an easier one.
Great line, because actor is very straightforward.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think it's less straightforward than it was before the BAFTA nominations, I will say, because the top 4 here is obvious. Timothée Chalamet, Adrian Brody, Ray Fiennes, Coleman Domingo hit every single precursor they could. I don't think there's a world where one of them ends up being the person who hits everything that misses. Could be Coleman, but I don't think that's going to happen. Craig hit everything besides BAFTA, which is insane to me. You would think out of any of the places that he would hit, it would be BAFTA. He is James Bond. He got the SAG nomination, which I do think is telling, and that's why I'm sticking with him here. SAG. Yeah, the fact that SAG went for it, and SAG in the Best Actor category more than any other category goes 5 for 5. Last year I think they went 5 for 5. I know in the Javier Bardem being the Ricardo's year, they went 5 for 5. So in this category,
Peter Dinklage.
Yeah, sorry. I guess in this case, Sebastian Stan is Peter Dinklage, who I do think is very possible. I do think. But the issue is the places he's gotten nominated are places where he wasn't going to split votes. At the BAFTAs, a different man wasn't longlisted, so they couldn't have voted for him there in Best Actor. At the Golden Globes, he was split between the categories. The other place where he could split votes was the SAG Awards, where they could vote for one or the other, and he didn't get nominated. So I feel like I still think he's going to split votes.
And the one that he would likely get nominated for is the more controversial one, which is just, I think they'll nominate Jeremy Strong. I don't think they want to nominate the guy playing Donald Trump. I get that there's just the overall climate going into the inauguration this week. I just don't think they're going to do it. And so,
Yeah.
And he'll split votes with his other movie. So I think in the end, welcome, Daniel Craig. You're finally nominated for an Oscar.
I think there's more people who probably, I think if you're looking at giving one of them a nomination, I think people are like, well, Daniel Craig needs an Oscar nomination at this point. Whereas Sebastian Stan, this was kind of, as we were talking about with Monica Barbaro, this year for him was kind of like, okay. I think lots of people just saw him as a Marvel actor, even though he's been great in other stuff. I think this year he really established him as a more serious actor.
He was robbed for I, Tonya. He should have been nominated.
He was so good in that. I, Tonya was robbed of a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think there's really anyone else shocked. I think it's that top 6.
Yeah.
And
I mean, again, Jesse Eisenberg, I think could, if A Real Pain overperforms, but I don't know. I think once Daniel Craig got SAG, which is something I was not anticipating, then I was like, oh, then this is more leaning in that direction than I thought.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I do think there's an issue when it comes to the Trump stuff that I think when you do more recent political stuff, it's a little too fresh. Whereas you do stuff like Vice, I think it's a little further back where you're able to digest it and handle it.
You got to be removed from the administration. But
we do. We're about to enter it. So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Let us move on. We've got 2 left. Is this not? I feel fine about the straightforward 5 in actor. I don't feel great about it here because as we talked to, I think we mentioned it in actress. The last 3 years, there's been a surprise in that category. So there's probably going to be a surprise there again. In the last 3 years,
the substance being in here is the surprise. Like,
no, but she's the obvious number 5 in terms of precursors.
So I was not surprised that year.
But I think he was not a top 5 prediction though. I feel like this is the obvious top 5 in terms of the odds.
Well, it's just that the substance overperformed. And I think, let's put it this way. If Demi Moore didn't win the Golden Globe, I don't necessarily think people would feel as confident in this. But because she won the Golden Globe, which means that people think she's winning Best Actress, then I think Coralie makes more sense. I think that's the logic. Because who would you have at number 6? Like who's...
Well, I'll get to that. Well, I should probably read them in case people are not looking at the screen. We've got Jack Audiard for Emilia Perez, Edward Berger for Conclave, Brady Corbet for The Brutalist, Sean Baker for Anora, and Coralie Farja for The Substance. I figured it out. And my number 6 will be Ramel Ross for Nickel Boys. I'm sorry. That's something that branch would go for.
I'll give you that.
It's so artsy and so like distinct and such a specific vision that I was tempted to kick out Farja and put him in there. I can't do that much for Nickel Boys at this point. Even though I think it is possible, I think it could totally happen. I think Nickel Boys is definitely in the realm of overperforming, as I even have it overperforming with what I've got it getting now. But I wasn't quite willing to do that. But like when you look at it, he was at that director's roundtable. I would say he got more love and like appreciation from the other directors talking about his film than even Farja did for The Substance. There was a lot of love for the way he did that film.
I think that's fair, and it could end up getting in. Speaking to what I mentioned earlier, which is that maybe we're buying into the hype, and that's where we are in the roller coaster. So it could, but I just think in the end, like if you're going to make a bet right now, who has more, sustenance to their campaign, I think you lean Substance.
You do. It makes sense. Do you think? I feel like the top 3 of Corbet, and Audiard and probably Baker are safe. Do you think there's a world where like a Berger? I see lots of people saying Berger could miss.
I have Berger at 3 and Baker at 4.
Interesting. I think there's a world where one of them could miss, but I feel like Berger is kind of like Kenneth Branagh that year, where like kind of people are trying to predict him to miss, but he's hit everything. He just makes sense of him getting.
I think Conclave is following a Belfast trajectory. It is liked, it is not loved, and it'll win screenplay. And
that'll probably be it. Maybe picture, but yeah, I could maybe see Baker missing, but I'm not going to do that. That just doesn't odd-wise. I'm not. Why would I? Like, I could do what I'm doing in actress and have like Baker or Berger missing and have both Farja and Ross in there. But this is not. This is the Oscars. This is not my personal awards. So
yeah, I feel like I'm in Silver Linings Playbook, and you're like doing the parlay, and you're trying to do all these gambling things, trying to make it work for you. I'm like, listen, buddy, I
just need Nickel Boys to work.
Yeah, well, so we got into Best Picture then?
Well, let's get into Best Picture, where we agree on 9. Everyone has this top 9. Emilia Perez, Conclave, Brutalist, Wicked, Anora, The Complete Unknown, Dune, The Substance, and A Real Pain. And I think we've got the one that people are fighting over what should be their number 10, Nickel Boys or Sing Sing. I have Nickel Boys. You have Sing Sing. Why are you going with Sing Sing and not Nickel Boys? Explain it to me.
Because I think Sing Sing has better chances of getting into the other categories. Screenplay, actor. These are better. I feel like there is a world where you can see Sing Sing getting those nominations. I think there is a world where Nickel Boys comes up short everywhere. To me, that is
not adapted screenplay. I think that it will always get that.
It has the best shot in adapted screenplay. But what do you think is the more likely thing? That Coleman Domingo misses, or that Nickel Boys misses adapted screenplay?
Coleman Domingo misses.
Really? You think Sebastian Stan gets in over Coleman rather than Wicked?
I think it's possible.
WGA nominated. Okay,
it's possible. In the end, I'm a little delusional, but yeah,
you might be right. And granted, I'm asking you to go against your number one, but I don't know. I just think that I don't know. I think Nickel Boys is on the bubble in a lot of categories, but I think, frankly, it doesn't have the support it needs. There are so many things that are just working against it. Chief among them, in the end, I think Nickel Boys is a bigger risk than Sing Sing. Though I think
that could also be in its favor. If we talk passion votes and number ones, I think Nickel Boys is going to get more number ones than Sing Sing. Nickel Boys is like a passion pick, whereas I think Sing Sing is like, I like it. It might get some like 3s, some 4s, some 5s. I don't know how many number ones are going to be thrown in.
That's fair. That's fair. Should we talk about September 5? I mean, that's the other contender.
Well, right? I just want to talk about Nickel Boys and Sing Sing in comparison a little bit, because I do think, first off, Amazon MGM gets their films into Best Picture, even if it's just barely. Women Talking, we're always, well, it's The Whale. Whale's going to get in there because it's got more like nomination potential. It's going to win an acting category, and it ended up being Women Talking. Even Licorice Pizza, which I think we all had in Best Picture, but it just got picture, director, screenplay. So they get their films in there, and I said it earlier, this is a film that will play best with the Academy voting body. Like I said, it's not going to play well at BAFTA.
I hope you're right.
I hope, but I believe when you look at their past taste, I kind of think that it's true, because it's not just a completely British voting body, and it's not a completely populist voting body. It's a combination of a ton of different stuff. It's a whole mixing pot, and I feel like the people who like Nickel Boys are in the Academy, and they're probably not as much at the in the BAFTA voting body or in the SAG. Well, they're in the SAG voting body, but they're overtaken by the hundreds of thousands of people who have more populist taste than them. I would say Sing Sing missing and just flopping at SAG is more damning than anything Nickel Boys missed. The fact that Sing Sing couldn't get SAG Ensemble, that should have been a shoo-in. It should have been contending to win there. Nickel Boys, it missed ASC, but it got a Spotlight Award. It wasn't going to get film or ensemble at SAG. It got a Golden Globe nomination. It got a Critics' Choice nomination for picture. I just think Nickel Boys, I mean, Sing Sing also missed the Golden Globe nomination. It missed Golden Globe picture and SAG Ensemble, which I think are things people really expected for that. Nickel Boys still managed to get Golden Globes, and Golden Globes, especially with 12 spots, usually get all the best picture films nominated. And the fact that Sing Sing missed there in favor of September 5, I think is a little telling. I feel like when it comes to underperforming, I'm convinced Nickel Boys has not underperformed as much as Sing Sing has, is what I'm sticking with.
And granted, I think that it's the distance between Nickel Boys and Sing Sing is closer than I'm making it out to be. I'm doing it more to Josh you because I think it's fun.
No,
but so we'll see. I just think in the end, like I feel more confident in the other Sing Sing nominations and in A24 than the other places for Nickel Boys to show up. Though again, if it gets in, I will not be that shocked. I don't know. I feel like it didn't really. I don't know what mode it was going in. Like it didn't feel like a big critics' favorite, in the way that a Drive My Car was. But I just didn't get
not quite at that level. But it won some trifecta stuff. I feel like it did very well with critics awards.
Yeah, maybe. Again, we'll see. I think it's been an
better than Sing Sing.
Yeah. And in the end, you might be watch it be September 5, and we're just like whoosh.
Yeah, that's the number 12 here, I think. But I just feel like in everywhere that Sing Sing should have done good, besides the BAFTA awards, shockingly, it underperformed. Whereas Nickel Boys, it didn't really miss a ton of what I was expecting it to get, like BAFTA or SAG or anything. I never thought it was going to get that. Whereas I felt Sing Sing had more places to hit that.
I also think that SAG, they don't tend to go with ensembles where they're it's non-actors. And a lot of the cast is made up of the people
they're actors, but they're not professional.
They're not they don't tend to do that. So the fact that Sing Sing missed there, I get why that could be raise the alarm bells, but also it makes Nomadland didn't get in there. And I know I understand that
that was less of an ensemble, I would say, but yeah.
But I would put Sing Sing more in that category than it's shocking it didn't get in. Because it also, like, to me, really, like, I thought it was a really fine film. It's Coleman and it's Clarence. Like, that is the movie to me. Like, and Paul Raci. I don't really look at that in the same way that, like, Conclave is an ensemble and Wicked's an ensemble. So, you know, we'll see. Again, you could be right, and maybe Nickel Boys. Listen, it could get picture, it could get director, it could get screenplay, it could get supporting actress, it could get cinematography. Yeah. It could end up having a shocking morning. But
that would be the best morning of my life.
Yeah, and maybe if that happens, I want you to know that I am speaking negatively on the chance of Nickel Boys just to give you that rush of serotonin.
Okay, good. You're keeping it realistic.
And then it does. I am from the future in that scenario.
Okay, good.
Is there any other contender you think that could get into this?
Well, I think we should talk about September 5 because it got PGA. It did get the Golden Globe nomination, which once again, I think that dings Sing Sing a lot. But because it got 12 spots and it missed somehow. And September 5 and Nickel Boys got in, even though they got no other nominations there.
The same thing you were talking about earlier, you know?
Yeah, but I think Nickel Boys doesn't have that. But yeah, it could be the journalist thing. But yeah, it's possible. But like I said, it performed well with journalists and producers. I feel like those are the people who would go for it. When you expand it to everyone, because everyone is voting on Best Picture, which has not, this is the only category where that's true. I just don't think that that's going to have enough love from, like, I don't think the actors branch is going to really go for that kind of film, which is the biggest branch. I don't think any of the tech people are like super impressed by September 5. So I don't think there'll be enough love for it. We did talk about challengers a little bit, how if that overperforms and gets like, if it gets screenplay and editing, it's in Best Picture.
I just think it's hilarious that the categories that we're thinking it could get in are like major categories.
Yeah.
I swear to God, because listen, I think your logic is quite strong for Nickel Boys. If I end up changing that because I think you make sense and it doesn't get in, I don't know what I'm going to do.
I'm sorry. Well, do we think all of these 9 are locked? I guess we could talk about that. Like, I guess A Real Pain is the clear number 9. Do we think, I feel like it is pretty safe, and I trust Searchlight more than like A24 to get 2 films in here. It got PGA.
A major category.
And then it's winning. Yeah, so it's probably in there. Yeah. How about Dune 2? Do you think Dune 2 could miss Best Picture?
You want to go back up the list? How about
well, no, those are the only 2 I would consider.
I think Dune, I mean, maybe. I mean,
honestly, it's possible. I think.
I don't think so.
I don't think I'm going to predict it, but I feel like it's clearly number 8.
And to circle back to our other conversation, I think Wicked is firmly in the top 6 with a complete unknown. I think Emilia, Perez, Conclave, Brutalist, Wicked, Anora, complete unknown. That is your top 6. What would be your top 5?
I would have this.
We're going to find out.
I'd have The Substance above it.
Really?
Personally. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think there's more passion for The Substance. But
we'll see. I don't really think there's a world. If there's a world where The Substance wins Best Picture, that would be fantastic. Please, let's go to that.
Well, neither of them are going to win Best Picture. I don't think either of them have a shot. But
at this point,
Wicked is not winning Best Picture.
Yeah, like, I didn't hate Emilia Perez. I personally would not nominate for Best Picture. I do not think it should be in a lot of these categories. I do not want to be talking about Emilia Perez winning for the next 2 months.
It's going to be one of those. It's going to be one of those top 2. I'm afraid.
I know it's the most controversial,
and neither of them are great.
Like, give me Wicked or The Substance. I will take Dune Part 2 winning Best Picture at this point. Give me something. I can't do this.
I just feel like I talked about this with you. Emilia Perez is the screw Trump film when it's about transgender people, Mexican people, and women, the 3 communities most affected by the Trump presidency, and people. The industry loves it. I just feel like it's either that or Conclave, which Conclave just wins by being really like no one's least favorite film.
I'm really hoping for a world where Wicked wins SAG and then maybe surprises at PGA because it's the big blockbuster and then can change the conversation. Because I cannot, if Emilia Perez keeps going up, this is going to be insufferable. R.I.P. comments.
It's going to be insufferable, but I think unfortunately I think we're dealing with Emilia Perez, SAG, Conclave, PGA, and it's going to be one of those 2.
Oh, I think you might be right. God. Okay. So, all right.
Nosferatu? No. All You Imagine As Light? No. I think those are the clear 14 and 15 is what I'll say. Nosferatu and All You Imagine As Light are the clear
14 and 15.
But they don't have a shot. But yeah, that is what I'll say. We've done it all in such a short runtime. So,
except shorts.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Yeah, no, that's true. Let me pull up my short predictions. Okay. So shorts, we'll just quickly touch on those. Neither of them are, this is kind of what makes or breaks in terms of how you do nomination prediction wise, but most of us don't have a clue with what we're doing. I will say I watched this video breakdown of someone, fantasy film ball, who watched all of the shorts besides one, I think, and they like broke down the plot and all of that for each film. So if you're trying to figure out what you're going to go for, I would suggest watching that. And after watching that video, I don't remember my reasoning because that was a few days ago. This is what I ended up doing. So I'll just stick with it. That's what I'm going with for those. Who knows? Anthony is too cowardly to give his predictions in these categories.
Honest. If you want me to pick a blind titles, I will. But
I think you should.
Yeah, I
you can check.
Except I'll disagree with one. I'll end up disagreeing with one of the shorts just to make it interesting.
Okay, good. Just to make it different. I think Anthony has his predictions on Awards Expert, so if you really want to know, you can check those out.
You watch. You're going to see me swap Nickel Boys for Sing Sing, and then I'm going to regret.
You better. That would be amazing. And then I will say, for my credit, the last 2 years I've gone 10 for 10 in terms of what I predicted for Best Picture. So everyone did that last year, but the year before is a little more.
You want to make a bet? I will put Nickel Boys in my Best Picture if you put Cynthia Erivo in Best Actress.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. I think we might have to ponder on this a little longer. I don't know.
It's going to get to a commercial for Awards Expert, but check there to see if Jack takes me up on my little.
Yeah. Yes, great commercial for Awards Expert. It's a great app. It's the best awards predicting app out there, so definitely check it out. But yeah, I guess you'll see what changes we make, what bets are made. We should make a money bet for like $5. I don't even know what it would be at this point.
Yeah, I think we can. Let's wait on the money bet.
Yeah,
I think this
for
will be more.
When I predict Nickel Boys to win Best Picture, yeah, let's save it for that. My cheeks
are hurting from laughing, so I think we're good.
Yeah, let's do it. We've done it all. So thank you all for watching our final Oscar nomination predictions. We're in the end game this Thursday. They are coming out. Check us out for our reactions and breakdowns for all of that stuff. Comment your predictions down below. We love to see your predictions and your reasoning as well if you're going for any big swings. What are you doing in actress? What's your final spot in Best Picture, supporting actress, all those categories where we're not sure what's happening.
Challengers, Screenplay. Challengers. I think that's
what's your deal with challengers? Yeah. All that fun stuff. And like the video and subscribe so you'll be here on Thursday. Big day for all of us. So thank you all for watching and goodbye.